All right, good morning, agents. This is Kevin Lauren. I'm the Director of Training and Marketing here. And today we've got a great webinar. We're going to talk about the characteristics of the top 1 producing agents in the country. What do they do that separates them from the others? So this will be a really good kind of a motivator, kind of the Germans have a word called Gestalt. It means you're here and you know you got to be up here. And so this will be one of those Gestalt meetings. So before we get into the presentation, I'm going to bring in Cameron Alley from Clearview Mortgage. Good morning, Cameron. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Kevin. Good. How are you?
Fantastic, buddy. So yeah, if you would like to bring us up to speed in what's going on in mortgage land out there, we'd appreciate it.
Yep, you got it. So happy Wednesday, everybody. I'll just do a quick little mortgage update here. 10-year treasury as of today is at 1.977. So we're kind of floating down below 2. Obviously, as everyone knows, it's been extremely volatile, but at least bonds have held below 2 pretty strongly to begin the week. And as we know, bonds are facing some more uncertainty as of late with the whole Russia-Ukraine and all those tensions. That could make a significant difference in the timing and quantity of interest rate hikes, as historically placing sanctions or sending troops to other countries has resulted in significant bond market drops. I don't know if you guys really know, but the whole thing that started this big refi boom in 2018, 2019 was the placing of sanctions on China. So things like that obviously have a huge effect on the bond market. And unfortunately, things that are kind of bad, such as sanctions and stuff like that, they do bring down bonds. So we'll see what happens. The Fed has got a huge decision to make. And whatever happens with their decision coming at the beginning of March is going to obviously have a huge effect on the market. And then some other interesting data here. Mortgage loans just hit a record high last week as far as the size of loans, even with 30-year rates at 4% average. So the average loan size in the U.S. Over the past 3 weeks has been $453,000, that's including purchases, refinance, everything. So that is a huge number and is definitely an eye opener. What's crazy about it is that a lot of people are refinancing those higher mortgage loans, trying to get their mortgage insurance off before rates go up. So that number can be kind of deceiving, but the fact that $453,000 is the average loan size in the United States shows what's happened with home values, and it's pretty incredible. Mortgage applications dropped to the lowest since December 2019 last week. Purchase applications are taking by far the higher percentage of the market right now, which is obviously not the norm. But good news for you guys, because that still means that a lot of people are looking to buy. But applications for purchases have decreased for the 3rd week in a row, but that they're still far above refinance applications. So should be getting a little bit less competitive out there. And hopefully that means that it'll be a little bit easier for buyers and agents to get their offers accepted. But at this point, I think people are kind of digesting what's going on in the market. If home prices begin to soften, we expect applications to roar back, as a lot of people have also obviously been very patient, and investors are waiting to kind of see exactly what happens in the market. I think we're definitely going to have an answer March and April on exactly where bonds are going to go. And then on another note, keep this in mind, with a lot of people taking unemployment in 2020 and being unable to purchase due to like Fannie and Freddie guidelines, there's still a huge amount of unserviced clients out there that will become eligible once they get their 2021 W-2 or newly filed taxes. And as a side note, if we go LP, we can actually qualify those clients on 1 year of income. So what that means for you guys is if somebody gets a really good 2021 W-2 and you're worried about the 2-year work history, as long as their credit is good and liabilities are good, we can take them LP and qualify off of that 1 year. And the same goes for self-employed clients. So definitely a lot of people coming that could be back in the market right now that don't even know they do. So keep that in mind when you're interviewing your clients, that a good 2021, it might solve their problem as far as trying to buy a home. And as a reminder, for self-employed, we no longer need profit and loss statements and business assets with 2 years of filed taxes. So if you had any self-employed borrowers that maybe backed out due to the loan process, or they thought it was going to be a lot more work than they wanted to get into, make sure to call them, reach out to them, and let them know that their process just became a lot easier, because it was very, very tough for 2 years for self-employed. So just keep that in mind when you're talking to your clients. So, but that's pretty much all I have for today. Of course, always feel free to reach out, text, email, call with any questions. We're always here to help you over at Clearview. So I appreciate your time as always, guys.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Appreciate it. Coming on the webinar as usual.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Kevin.
All right, buddy.
All right.
And before I get into the meat of the presentation, I also want to bring on corporate broker Bill Seitz. And Bill's going to go over a couple things with the MLS, I believe. What's going on with that, Bill?
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Thank you, Cameron, for that. That was excellent overview. A little historical perspective about the sanctions in China. I did like that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's good to have an all-encompassing understanding of how all these mechanisms work, and it happens for a reason, and those are big reasons.
Yep.
So real quick, I just wanted to. This was brought to my attention this week, and many of you might already know this, and since we're in a kind of a bizarre market where listings are low and inventory is low, a lot of competing buyers for limited inventory, and some of you are finding sellers that maybe are willing to sell the market without it going into the MLS. And traditionally, you didn't have to take this step, but it was brought to my attention this last week in that you do have to register your listing in the, at least through Matrix. And I think most of us are using the Matrix system up and down the state. It may be if there's an off MLS that you're being used, maybe you don't have this policy, but it's something I'll continue to monitor. But they want you to register your listing regardless of if it's going into, if you're selling it, like a seller exempt out of the listing of the MLS, they still want you to register. And I kind of pressed the gal here at my local board in the MLS to say, why is this a requirement? And, the biggest reason was to share information with appraisers, local market, people that are trying to determine the value and what's happening. So I do understand coming from that perspective. But if you are using Matrix, I just want to show you how to navigate this. And let's see if I can re-familiarize myself here. So your listing tools. So we're going to go down, Kevin, to the bottom half of that. There it is, listing toolbox.
Got it.
We're going to click there, obviously, and then you're going to click sign in with Clarity. Okay, and then we're going to go to the left side where it says registered listings. And now we're going to click new. And you're going to fill in just the required areas of information that they're asking for and registering your listing through Matrix CRMLS. Once again, this is a new, as far as I'm aware, this is a new requirement or a new mandate. Everyone's used to that word. It's a new mandate for this industry. And so so if you come across this and you're working with a seller and you're going to take the listing, or you have a buyer already in place, maybe with another agent, it's not going to hit the actual MLS in that the normal capacity in which we do this. Just make sure that you're aware of this process so they don't try to ding you or give you a hard time about it. So I just want to make everyone aware that's super easy. Once again, you log in, you're going to go to the listing toolbox, register listings, and then you're going to fill out this bit of information to make sure that you're compliant with CRMLS and Matrix. So that is the little tip for the day, Kevin.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bill. And so it doesn't go into the MLS, but it's basically quote unquote registered there, right?
Yeah, I think what appraisers and people can still find, what it sold for, what the square footage was, the comps. So it keeps that information relevant to what's happening in the macro market. because appraisers and different people do rely on information to obviously, and the banks, obviously they're hiring the appraisers to do the valuations, to do the lending. You can see why they do want the information there. But it's just an extra step, extra layer that we have to be aware of.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense.
Part of the deal. So anyways, hopefully that helps everybody. And, if you have any questions, obviously you can reach out to me or reach out to your local association, and they should be able to assist in that capacity as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, appreciate that, Bill. Much appreciated your input as usual. So without further ado, we're going to get into the presentation today. So let me switch gears here, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys. So really, there's a huge difference in, somebody that's making $250,000, $300,000 a year selling real estate, and the majority of realtors, which are just kind of hanging around the 70,000 a year mark. So RedX went through, and I think this study is a couple of years old now, but it's definitely relevant still. So the same numbers apply. It might be, changing a tiny bit, but really the same numbers for sure apply to this. So, and this is kind of a cool little synopsis that they came up with. So becoming a top producer comes down to proactively prospecting about 7 hours a week, constantly learning, being emotionally resilient. Everybody can understand that doing real estate, and moving from great to memorable client experiences. So that was kind of their, they did this, 10-year survey. And at the end of that, that was, kind of the big takeaways, or that was the big synopsis, which I thought was very, very telling, right? So, and there's really not much difference in people that are making that 250,000 versus 70,000 a year. So another little kind of tidbit that they distilled down was, for the 250,000 a year earners, 100% of those surveyed had a written goal and a written business plan. So we talk about that all the time, every year around, January and December. We're always talking about, creating and augmenting your business plan for the year. So 100% of those top earners, and I'll call them 1%ers, they have a business plan. They have written goals. They have a plan. They're not a boat with no rudder. They know exactly where they're going and what they're going to do to get there. So, and I take that back. They don't exactly know, but they have a good idea and they have a plan, right? So the 250,000 a year producers prospected. This is the huge thing. They prospected on average 4.6 days per week. That's almost 5 days a week, guys. So for at least 90 minutes a day, so, or basically 7 hours per week on average. And then 81% always use a script. They know basically what they're going to say every time they get on that phone. Okay. So the 70,000 per year earners, only 82% had written goals. 66% had a written business plan. They only prospect 3 days a week, 3.5 days a week, for an average of 60 minutes. So that's the big difference right there. So the difference between earning 70 grand per year and 250,000 grand per year, and I know this is just a generalization, gross generalization, but the big difference is only 3.5 hours per week more of prospecting. Okay, that's not that much. So if whatever you're doing, if you just say to yourself, whatever my plan is and however I'm prospecting, if I can just spend at least 3.5 hours more per week, which isn't a lot, you're going to take steps to get towards that 250,000 a year. So, so here's a little tidbit here. So consequently, the first 2 steps in becoming a top producer are to create a written business plan and prospect 5 days a week for at least 90 minutes a day. So, again, gross generalization, but it really helps, us think about these things, right? And so I've got tons and tons of webinars. You guys can go to our YouTube channel and, go through all of our webinars, because we have a lot of webinars about creating business plans, templates for business plans, all that kind of stuff. But here's just a quick little one, a little graphic. So, creating a monthly business plan is very, very important. It's almost as much important as creating a yearly business plan. So I think it's a great idea to have a yearly plan, and then you got to break it down to the months too. What are you actually going to do? And then it comes down to daily. What are your personal priorities? What's the business priorities? What are you trying to accomplish, right? So this is a nice little, graphic that shows you, hey, where should I be in this whole, planning stage? Well, every day you got to have a little bit of a plan. So setting goals is massive. Write down your annual goals. Why are you, sometimes it's a good idea to go on a little bit of a philosophical level. What drives you in the business? Why are you doing this? What excites you about getting up in the morning? So write down those things, and then write down an annual income goal. So whatever your goal is, now double it. Okay. Make that your goal for the next 12 months. Whatever if you're shooting for a much higher goal than you thought, well, you might not get to that double mark, but you're shooting for higher. You're trying to get more. You're trying to go for more, right? You're not just complacent. So another thing the top producers do is they always know their numbers. They know their average sales price. They know how many times they have to make a touch, or they have to call somebody in order to get that sale, or in order to, make that connection that leads to the sale. So they are very, very in tune with what their numbers are. What's their average transaction cost? What do they incur when you have a listing? What are your annual expenses? What are your monthly expenses? You got to know all of those little things. And so again, the top producers, they know their numbers. They study the numbers stare back at them, and they are able to make better decisions because of the numbers. So really, really a very key thing, and analyze those numbers, at least once a month. You have a goal, and then you look at your numbers. How am I off? Am I up? Am I down? Do I need to make more phone calls? Do I need to do more social media posting and more, connections on Facebook Messenger? What is it? So all those different things are, they're all numbers. They're all different things that factors for, right? So a great thing to do, of course, is to plan your day. So what I like to do is, before the end of the day, I like to analyze what needs to happen the following day. And so you have when you wake up in the morning, you have a pretty good, clear idea of what you need to accomplish. And that way, and this is another huge thing that 1% of producers do, is they don't let the day rule them. They have an idea and they block out time. So even if somebody that has a question, a client has a question, and you're already blocked out time to do something else like marketing, those people have to know that, what, no problem. I'm going to get back to you in an hour. You can get back to people, but you're not letting your clients run your day. You're the master of your day. You're the master of, what you're going to accomplish. So that's a huge thing that the 1%ers do. Control your day. Don't let the day control you. And we see it all the time. We see, some realtors that just kind of running around, and by the seat of their pants, they just, whatever happens in the day, they let it kind of dictate them. And so there's obviously a yin and yang there. It's not all one way, all the other way, but you have to be able to be professional enough to let your clients know, hey, I'm going to get back to you in half an hour, because I'm not done prospecting. I'm doing whatever I'm doing right there. I'm blocked out my time. So really, really important, I think, to control your day and make sure that you're in control. So doing those day goals, a daily business plan almost, and a daily list of tasks is super important. So if you have a new listing, call 50 people who live nearby and invite them to attend your open house or your virtual open house or whatever you're doing. A lot of things are opening up now, so we're pretty much back to doing open houses, no problem. And the goal is to engage in prospecting activities where you have a live conversation. Could be in person, could be in Zoom, could be on the phone, but that's the goal. And then this is a fun little just tidbit is there's a guy named Brian Tracy, and he wrote a book called Eat That Frog. And so his theory is, tackle the worst thing, the biggest, ugliest tax of the day, tackle that first, get it out of the way, eat the frog. So I always thought that was a great little way to put that. It's like, oh man, I know I got to do this horrible task tomorrow, get it out of the way in the morning, just get it done, right? And then a couple other little kind of notes about the one percenters is the top producers, they focus on their strengths. They focus on 2 or 3 of their core lead generation activities that work for them. And, they're normally in a niche market. Almost all 1%, producers they are in a niche. They are either in a very small geographical area, or they do luxury homes, or they do, something kind of specific, and they focus on it because they know that that's their strengths. No one ever got to the top by focusing on their weaknesses, right? You want to notice your weaknesses, you want to, improve upon them, but you want to focus on your strengths. Here's another little tidbit. Apply the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your income results from the top 20% of your activities. And also, there's a lot of 80-20 rules, but one of the other ones is, 20% of your clients will take up 80% of your time, right? So a lot of fun little 80-20 rules, but that's a good thing to keep in mind as well. So, so instead devote at least 80% or more of your time to the top 3 sources that generate the most leads, right? And drop the bottom 20% of your activities, and that'll free you up a full day. And then you can do more prospecting on the stuff that actually makes you money. So one of here's just some just characteristics, right? And I'll just kind of go through some of these. So the top successful realtors, they have a continuous learning mindset and are constantly in search of ways to improve themselves and their businesses. You're always looking for, ways to hone your skills, become a better agent, become a better resource for your clients, right? So they have adequate financial reserves for sure. If you're a top realtor, you understand the ebbs and flows of the real estate business, and they don't just go out and spend all their money when you get a nice commission check. They reinvest back into their business. They keep adequate financial reserves on hand because of the nature of the business. Every single one of these top producers does that. And then they are emotionally resilient, optimistic, and they handle conflict well. That's probably the biggest one. This is an emotional business. It's generally the largest purchase that people will do. They're going to live there. There's a lot of emotion tied up in these transactions. So, being that agent that's emotionally resilient and able to, take things calmly and, look adversity in the face and deal with it, that's a huge, huge characteristic of a successful realtor. So it's like being a boxer. Boxers could take a bunch of punches, knock them down, but they always get back up, right? So really, really important. And, the 1%ers are very persistent. When a potential client decides not to work with them, top producers actively prospect for other clients to take their place. You don't just lay down. So, persistence is huge. Thinking outside the box, of course, so a top producing agent, they're not just doing, whatever everybody else is doing. They're experimenting with new technologies. They're open to trying new stuff, right? If something doesn't work, they try something else. And they're willing to experiment. So really, really, being that agent that's, thinking outside the box. I know that's such a cliche term, but it applies, and there's not too many ways to say that. So yeah, thinking outside the box, super important. And then another huge thing with that RedX study is the top 1%ers create memorable experiences. So what does that mean, right? I have an example. One of our agents, Crystal Burns, she likes to, once she does the sale. She comes down, she puts on a show, right? And she creates this memorable experience. She brings, the champagne, and she brings, she has a nice big giant key that's printed with Alta Realty Group and her name. And, she presents the key, this big giant, kind of cardboard key to the client. And she takes pictures and she creates this great experience, right? And then, she brings by little gifts and stuff. I mean, that is a memorable experience that person says, wow, this person really went the extra mile. I'm going to refer that person to others. That's the magic, right? So we got to be that person that, creates those memorable experiences. And then don't forget to be a human. Just, you're a person, they're a person, they want to relate to people that are, regular people. You're fallible, you make mistakes, you are okay to admit that, so don't be afraid to be a human, right? So, ask them how they've been, ask the kids, connect on that human level, and I think most 1%ers, that's what they do. They aren't just a bot, creating this service. They're really, creating that memorable experience and hopefully creating a client for life that would like nothing to do but refer you more business. So really, really important. And then this last little bit is just show you care about their personal interests, right? So a local realtor recently went on a listing appointment for a $3.5 million home. The owners were moving to the Central California coast. When he heard how excited they were about the move, he searched online, found him a nice book about the history of the area. They loved the book, but more importantly, the $22 little investment secures the listing, right? So just little things like that, show some interest, show a little bit of proactivity, right? So those are the top kind of things that we distilled down from this little study. And again, becoming a top producer comes down to proactively prospecting about 7 hours a week, constantly learning, being emotionally resilient, and moving from great to memorable client experiences. If you can do that, I guarantee you will sell more homes in 2022. You're going to make more relationships. You're going to be a more effective realtor. So that is the bulk of our presentation today. Let me see if we have any questions here in the chat. Nope. Don Kearney says, you're the master of your day. Yes, absolutely. That's so important, Don. So guys, I really appreciate you being on the webinar this week. If you have questions for me, you can always reach out, Kevin@altarealtygrp.com. And I really look forward to seeing you guys next week on the webinar. We're going to have one of our vendors, Paolo Bianco from Preview First, who is our preferred photography vendor. He's going to come on and show us some of the new things that they're doing and show you guys how you can make stunning listing presentations with your listings using great photography. So looking forward to having him come on. With that, get out there, make it a great week and a productive week, and we will see you all on the webinar next week. Bye-bye.